Mrs. Dole is currently on a leave of absence from her position as president of the American Red Cross to help her husband in his quest for the presidency. Mrs. Dole, thanks for coming in.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be with you this morning. We have a beautiful day in New Hampshire.
You know, George Bush once referred to something akin to this New Hampshire primary, referring to it as Tension City. Is it Tension City, or is this actually fun for you?
No, it feels good. You know, I really enjoy being out with people. They buoy you up. You draw your energy from the people you meet. And I find a lot of energy in the crowds. I find a lot of passion in Bob's speeches, and it just feels good. So we're enjoying this process.
Reports
Democracy in action.
That's right. Reports today that Phil Gramm plans to endorse Bob Dole, your husband. Is that something that will help him in New Hampshire or anywhere else?
Well, we'll wait and see what happens. But certainly we would appreciate his endorsement, yes. I think it would help.
Phil Gramm campaigned vigorously, I think it's safe to say, against Bob Dole. He had some very tough ads. In one of them, he referred to him as Senator Straddle. He said he cuts deals and voters rejected him. He charged him with abandoning House Republicans. Tough stuff. Why would Bob Dole even want an endorsement from someone?
Let me just put it this way. When Bob Dole is president of the United States, I think Phil Gramm will be a real ally in the United States Senate to get the job done. Fundamental change for this country, getting America back on the right track, returning power where appropriate to the states, to local communities, and more freedom to the people. 10th Amendment to the Constitution. Those are the goals, and Phil will be a big help in reaching those goals.
Bob Dole came out of Iowa as a narrow winner, 3 points. Tracking polls here show him locked in a virtual dead heat. It's tough going. He's been through this before. Iowa was a neighboring state to Kansas. He's been to New Hampshire 3 times before. Why is he having so much trouble, do you think?
I think, you know, most people realize that there were millions of dollars of advertising, negative ads that were aimed at my husband. And Bob Dole just let that happen. He did not respond in kind. Finally,
is that a mistake?
After 3 months of that kind of negative barrage, you know, it was important to set the record straight. But I think that it did have an impact. But Bob has wanted to follow that 11th commandment, which is, of course, you don't say negative things about your fellow Republicans. Most of them he's had an opportunity to work with and he respects. So it's unfortunate that one of the candidates chose to do that.
Bob Dole is labeled another one of the candidates, Pat Buchanan, extreme, can't be elected kind of thing. What effect do you see Pat Buchanan having on the Republican Party? I mean, you're a former cabinet official. You have worked in 2 previous administrations. You know this party very well.
Well, let me put it this way. There are a number of areas where Bob Dole agrees with Pat Buchanan, especially in identifying the problems that people face today, but he disagrees with Pat's solution to those problems. In other words, Pat's solutions tend to be polarizing, tend to be extreme.
Is Pat Buchanan, if your husband weren't running, is Pat Buchanan someone you could support for President of the United States?
I don't agree with his solutions. I'm where Bob is on that, and I feel that there's a better way to go about answering the real problems of people today, and I think Bob Dole has those answers. So let me focus on Bob and his record.
Right,
I'd like to have a chance to tell why Bob Dole ought to be president of the United States.
I know you do, and we will get to that, but I do want to just pursue this one more time. Does Pat Buchanan's rise, in your view, jeopardize the stability and cohesiveness of the Republican Party?
Again, I feel that Bob Dole is a superior candidate because he is a person who brings people together. He's not a polarizer.
So you're not going to talk about Pat Buchanan?
Therefore, vote for Dole.
All right, fine. How about Lamar Alexander? Isn't he the Dole campaign's nightmare now?
I think that Lamar is the solutions that Lamar has proposed will mean more government programs, more spending. Bob Dole is the only mainstream conservative in this race.
I am delighted you're here, and I'm very glad that you're sitting with us. But I must ask you this. Why isn't Bob Dole coming out and sitting down for interviews like this? He hasn't been on a Sunday interview for 2 months, since Sunday interview program. I talked with a local New Hampshire station who said, we can't book him. We can't get him to come and sit and talk to us.
Well, I have seen many, many interviews. I can't believe you're asking this question because the press is around him constantly, and he's holding press conferences and interviews.
It's run and gun stuff. It's not sitting and really submitting.
He's out with the people. And this is a state where retail campaigning is very important, where people want to see you not just once or twice, but they want to see you in person several times. And he's sitting around those kitchen tables. He's meeting with people across New Hampshire.
I understand that, but every other candidate has sat across this table with us and with other reporters who have an opportunity, and this is not meant to sound as sour grapes, because if there's a time that a candidate submits his or her views to public scrutiny, it's during an election time. The other candidates have done that. Why not Bob Dole?
Well, for one thing, in the past, of course, Bob Dole has been in the Senate, taking care of the business of the people of New Hampshire and of the United States. He is undertaking the awesome dual responsibilities of leading the Senate. He's been elected not once, but 6 times by his fellow senators to be their leader.
Does he not want to do these? Does he not want to do these interviews?
He has been pursuing important initiatives like cutting our taxes $245 billion, saving Medicare, reforming welfare, balancing the budget for the first time in a generation. That's under Bob Dole's leadership as majority leader of the Senate. At the same time, he's also, of course, a presidential candidate. So I think it's rather awesome that he handles all of this just as if it's another day's work, and that's what vast experience does for you. The White House, by the way, is not a place for on-the-job training. Bob Dole has that vast experience to be prepared, and that's exactly what his career has been, preparation now for something that is very important for the future of America.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll ask Elizabeth Dole what she would do as First Lady. And welcome back, talking again with Elizabeth Dole out on the campaign trail. First Lady, if you're elected, the two of you, it is a package deal. What do you do in the White House?
Well, I'll be crossing the street, 17th Street, about 3 minutes to the American Red Cross, where I'll be serving as president of the Red Cross. Also, I hope, Frank, to lead a movement or help lead a movement in America to increase charitable giving. I think people are surprised when they realize that, on average, Americans give less than 2% of their income to charitable causes. And, of course, for those who can't give more financial resources, more volunteer time. So I'd like to sort of be a Pied Piper, help organize churches, synagogues, humanitarian groups, service clubs. If we could get charitable giving up across America, even 1 percentage point, it would be about $62 billion new dollars for all sorts of worthy causes.
So we'd actually have 2 presidents in the White House.
You'd have the president of the American Red Cross. And that's...
full-time?
Yes, it would be full-time. And it's an organization that's larger than half the Fortune 500.
How would you balance, then, the need to attend to the duties that a First Lady must attend to?
Well, you know, there is no job description. It's what you make of it. Each person puts their own imprimatur on it, and I think it reflects the life experiences, the personality of the individual in the role. But now let me suggest this. If, and I think it will happen in our lifetime, there's a woman who is being considered for president. Do you think you would be asking her spouse whether he would have time to continue his career?
I promise you we would. What would you say to traditionalists, many of whom are in the Republican Party, who might say, you know, being a First Lady of this country is a full-time job. Look at Barbara Bush. Look at even, you know, Nancy Reagan or Hillary Clinton, a full-time job, regardless of how you define it.
It literally, though, with Barbara Bush, she selected issues like literacy that she wanted to pursue. My selection would be to continue service to the public, which is what my husband's career, my career, has been about the entire time, and also the pursuit of humanitarian goals. And what better way to do it than through the structure of a wonderful and the largest humanitarian organization, the American Red Cross.
There have been a spate of stories lately about your finances, much of which has been put aside in a blind trust on and off over these many years. You've recently written a large check to cover some of your speaking fees, which you gave to charity, to the Red Cross. But there was a tough piece on you in the New Yorker recently about a former, among other things, former financial advisor who did time in jail, below market rate loans. Are you concerned that
had nothing to do with the Doles, believe me.
Are you concerned,
Don't confuse that.
Are you concerned, though, that as this campaign moves forward, your finances could become an issue as Hillary Clinton's?
No, I'm not at all, because we have laid out 29 years of tax records. For 20 years, as long as I've been married to Bob Dole, there's been a financial disclosure statement each year, which clearly makes my finances absolutely open. And just to go back to a few of the points that you made, first of all, I chose to give to the Red Cross hundreds of thousands of dollars, which was my choice to do.
From your speaking fees.
And basically, the benefit to the Red Cross in the 4.5 years that I served as president was almost the equivalent of what they paid me. I volunteered my first year rather than taking a salary. And then I gave a lot of money to the Red Cross for youth at risk. And actually, that was an accounting error where some money was withheld for taxes that should have gone to the fund. So immediately, I wrote an additional check.
When did you find out about that error?
My intent and my instructions were that once taxes had been withheld and any expenses, retirement, the rest of the money, which was mine to keep, would go to Red Cross. So, as I mentioned, it was almost the equivalent of what they paid me, which I think is shows clearly my intent is to make a difference for the Red Cross.
On the campaign trail, people want to know their candidates. They want to know their families, their concerns, aside from politics. Politics aside, what is it that the Doles sit around the dinner table and worry about? What concerns you as a family?
Well, I think clearly in terms of the campaign and Bob's desire to make a difference in America, at this point in time, the country, in terms of the economics, in terms of the moral fabric of our nation, is on a decline. And Bob is not willing to permit the country that he loves so much and which he sacrificed for. Certainly in 4 years in the hospitals after World War II, he's not going to permit that decline to continue. So Bob Dole is in this race to truly try to get America back on track. And this is something that's important to both of us. We feel a passion for this, a sense of mission. And you know, I think that clearly...
I'm talking, though, about, I don't mean to interrupt, but we're almost out of time. I'm talking about on a very personal level, not about politics for a moment. Something that touches your lives, perhaps. What is it that you talk about that worries you or concerns you as human beings?
Well, I think Bob and I are optimistic. We feel America's best days are yet to come. We are a couple who've just celebrated our 20th anniversary. In fact, I said to Bob on that day, you know, Bob, I said we love each other just as much as we did the day we were married. He said, no, we love each other more. So it's a very happy situation. And in terms of, you know, I have a mother who's up in years, who'll be 95 in May. I touch base with her every day. We talk every day. Obviously, we're concerned if there are people, friends, family members who have a particular problem, an illness, or need some help. But overall, we're optimistic. We're happy. We're happily married. We're optimistic about the future. And let me say that I think this is a defining moment in the history of America. This election is going to be about the character of America as we move into the next century and the character of the man who leads America. Bob Dole is constantly spoken of by his colleagues, and many of them have been interviewed, saying that here's a man, both Democrats and Republicans feel this way, who is honest, who's straightforward, who's a man of his word, who can be trusted as their leader in the United States Senate. And I think character and effectiveness, ability to get the job done, vast experience is going to count for a great deal in this election, and Bob Dole's the man.
Okay, Ms. Elizabeth Dole, I appreciate your time. It's been very good having you here. I hope we catch up on the campaign trail.
Thanks. I look forward to that.
Okay, thanks very much.
Have a good day now.